Alright, let's get right into it. The new Masters of the Universe movie has been dropping some new footage, and honestly, the hype is getting pretty real. We're also hearing a ton from director Travis Knight about how he's bringing this, iconic 80s franchise into the modern era. So let's break down everything we know. And yeah, of course, the new footage did not disappoint. We finally hear Prince Adam scream that legendary line, "I have the power." And right as he's transforming, they hit us with those first few notes of the classic theme music. It's just a pure nostalgia bomb, designed to hit every single fan right in the childhood. But all that nostalgia brings up the million-dollar question, doesn't it? How on earth do you take a property that is famously a little campy and out there and make it work for today's audiences? All without, losing the magic that made it so special in the first place. That's a tough balancing act. Well, turns out the director Travis Knight actually has a very clear game plan. He's got a proven blueprint for this exact kind of thing, and it all starts with leaning into the history and just respecting what we all fell in love with all those years ago. So his whole strategy seems to be built on what you could call a nostalgia blueprint. Instead of trying to make He-Man all gritty and dark or running away from the wild, colorful origins, Knight is just embracing it all, head on. And if you want proof that this works, you just have to look at his last movie, Bumblebee. It's the same exact playbook. With Bumblebee, he honored the classic G1 Transformer designs, he used the original theme music, and he found that perfect sweet spot between big action and real heart. And it looks like he's doing it again, embracing the classic toy looks, dropping in that iconic Filmation theme, and really grounding the whole story in Prince Adam's personal journey. And what's really cool is that the timing for this couldn't be better. 10 years ago, a studio probably would have forced him to make a super realistic He-Man. But now, thanks to the success of other weird, wonderful blockbusters, Hollywood is way more willing to just get weird and embrace the wild, colorful, and sometimes kind of strange spirit of these old properties. Now, this respect for the original stuff led to some really fascinating creative choices, especially for the characters. And apparently, there were some pretty big creative battles behind the scenes over how to get the hero and the main villain just right. So get this, it turns out Travis Knight had to fight a major creative battle the second he joined the project, and it was all about Skeletor. The studio's original idea was to have an actor just wearing a skull-like mask, but Knight, he put his foot down. He insisted that the character's iconic, floating skull face was absolutely non-negotiable. Knight's logic was simple. He said, and I quote, "Skeletor's face is already perfect. It has to be accurate to the original toy line." He was completely adamant that the villain had to be a pure, fully CG skeleton under that hood, not just some guy in a mask. And you know what? He won. Okay, so the villain's look is locked in, and it's perfect. But what about our hero? I mean, casting Prince Adam and He-Man is a totally unique challenge. You don't just need a huge action star. You need an actor who can convincingly be two totally different people. Knight's approach to this was pretty brilliant. Cast Prince Adam first. He said he wasn't looking for another giant, muscle-bound dude like in the old movie. He was looking for a soul. He wanted someone with charm and humor and heart who could then plausibly get jacked enough to become He-Man. Think of it like the Bruce Wayne before Batman philosophy. The person underneath matters way more than the cape, or in this case, the power sword. And here's something that just adds another layer of passion to this whole thing. The stars, guys like Jared Leto and Idris Elba, they actually went after these roles. They're in their early 50s, which means they were right around 11 or 12 years old when the original toys first came out. So they're not just actors taking a paycheck, they were the original kids who were huge fans of Skeletor and Man-at-Arms. And that deep connection to the original toys is so important, because the movie is apparently loaded with Easter eggs that point to their real, and honestly, pretty surprising origin story. It's a story of recycling, rebranding, and a little bit of accidental genius. So, to really get this, you gotta know this term, kit bashing. This is a real thing toy companies do. They take leftover, unsold parts from a failed toy line and basically Frankenstein them together to create something totally new. It's a way to save money that, in this case, accidentally created a legend. So here's the story. Back in the late 70s, Mattel had this toy line called Big Jim that totally bombed, leaving them with warehouses full of unsold plastic parts. Around the same time, the Conan the Barbarian action figure was a massive hit, and Mattel wanted a piece of that action. So they kit bashed their way from a Conan knockoff into something totally new and weird, Masters of the Universe. Battlecat is the perfect example of this. The designers literally took an unsold Black Panther figure from that old Big Jim line, used the exact same plastic mold, slapped on a coat of green paint with yellow stripes, and threw on a saddle and a helmet. And just like that, one of the most iconic sidekicks ever was born from the scraps of a failed toy. So, when you've got a movie this deeply connected to the franchise's history, you have to ask, what's next? If this first movie is a hit, it could blow the doors wide open to a much, much bigger universe filled with new heroes, villains, and some surprisingly messy legal problems. I mean, if the first movie does well, sequels are pretty much a given. And the next logical step has to be introducing the villain behind the villain, right? Skeletor's evil boss, Hordak. And once you bring in Hordak, you have to introduce Adam's long-lost twin sister, Adora, who we all know better as She-Ra. But here's where it gets a little complicated. For years, trying to bring She-Ra into the He-Man world has been a huge headache, especially for the cartoons, and it all comes down to a tangled mess of character rights. Okay, so the problem is basically this. Back when She-Ra was created for her own cartoon, the animation studio, Filmation, actually secured her animation rights forever. Filmation eventually got bought by DreamWorks, which is why DreamWorks could make that She-Ra series on Netflix all on their own without Mattel. So in the world of animation, these two characters live in two legally separate houses. But, and this is the really good news for us movie fans, while the animation rights are all split up, Mattel has always owned all of the live-action rights. That means there are literally zero legal hurdles stopping them from bringing She-Ra and Hordak into a sequel. That huge crossover we've all been dreaming of, it's completely on the table. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, it starts to look really, really promising. You've got a director who has a proven track record with this stuff, a cast of actors who are actual childhood fans, and a clear path forward to expand this universe in a way that feels huge and authentic. You know, after decades of being stuck in development hell with so many false starts, it really feels like all the pieces are finally in the right place. The only question left is this going to be the movie that finally gives fans the power and the amazing adaptation they've been waiting all these years for? I guess we're about to find out.